Okay, so this is part two of the Cinder recording for Wednesday, October 22nd. So we've been discussing the sizing of encrypted volumes problem for a while, and Sophia's been looking into that. So she's going to update us on her latest thoughts and what we're going to have to do to get this fixed. I will shut up and let you go. Is it just me, or is Sophia not audible?
I cannot hear her either.
She's showing as unmuted in the blue jeans, though.
She asked for a timeout, so she's probably reconnecting.
Okay, we'll wait a second for Sophia to reconnect. I'll update the PTG bot.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep, now we can.
Sorry, it was me. Something with my audio. Okay. As we discussed in the Victoria cycle, let me follow up, and for the sake of completeness, I'm going to try to summarize again the problem in case anyone need it. Okay, so retyping an encrypted volume to the same size encrypted volume will mostly fail. Even though the volume is the same size as the source volume, the encrypted volume needs to store additional encryption information overhead, and this results in the new volume not being large enough or big enough to hold all the data. So yeah, as I have gone through the actions, I'm here to discuss the spec or the ideas I have and show a little what I did. So I don't know if you could open the Etherpad, Brian, but in the Etherpad, the fix or the feature that I found is that the issue is that the current code to manage migration in the generic way doesn't really handle block devices like RBD. However, the good news is that only allowing to increase the destination volume size with this new flag in the Cinder client make that LVM works, and I think that NFS as well, but I haven't tried yet. For the rest of the cases when we are using block devices, we need driver optimization to handle these migrations. And yeah, I couldn't find really an easy way to open block devices inside the generic method, avoiding delegating this work to the driver. So actually there are many things to be done. The first things will be, of course, that the manager we create destination volume bigger in size if we use the flag migration size when retyping. After that, we are going to need a driver-specific method for handle the retype when encrypted. And we are also going to need some RPC minor versions for new params. Yeah, I don't know if it's too much or not. I tried to summarize everything in the spec, but maybe more details are needed. So I try LVM to looks, and it works. I have a warning display, but the data is copied well between the volumes, and also Ceph to looks that yeah also works. But yeah, I know if I have Monday Eric suggests me some cases that I should try, like RBD to iSCSI or migrate between different pool. I know maybe someone has another idea to propose. And yeah, finally, I don't know really what to do with the OpenStack client because I cannot find the retype command, which is weird, but I only see the migrate one, so I don't know really what to do with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that for now, and we'll let that get taken care of in the general OpenStack client work. Because I suspect, remember Gorka was talking about the people being confused about migration versus retype versus moving volumes. I suspect that's what happened when the command got moved over, was they chose one and thought that covered everything.
It's probably hidden in the set commands, like volume set type or something. There's a whole bunch of different Cinder operations that are all buried under set. I think it might be in there.
Okay. So the situation now, just concentrating on the size issue, is that we're going to have to go from, to retype a volume from unencrypted to encrypted, we're going to have to change the size no matter what, is what you found. Okay. So
yeah, it's mandatory.
Okay. So I think what we'll have to do, so since Cinder only allows you to specify increments of 1 gig, I think we're going to just have to bump the size, right, a gig. Now, operators don't have a way to set size increments, do they? So, like, I can't enforce that everybody, you have to do volumes in terms of like 10 gig allocations or anything.
As far as, yeah, I mean, I couldn't really increase less than 1.
Yeah, no, I think that's the way to go, because I don't think we should get into the business of sort of lying about what the size is, because it's right. We know it's a very small, it's too bad it's a very small bit of information. So way less than a gig. But I think just to keep things standard, it makes sense to just, I think as long as we document that if you're going to retype, if you haven't thought in advance and you're going to go from unencrypted to encrypted, you're going to have to pop it by a gig.
Okay.
But at today's prices, that's not a big deal.
What happens with the one driver that only works in 8 gig increments? I can't remember which one that is.
Yeah, we talked about trying to resolve this when that came up, and I think we basically decided to punt on the whole issue and just leave it up to the driver. And
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, it basically means that if you have quotas and things that aren't aligned to 8 gigs, stuff is just a little bit off.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
don't
what we're
really
gonna,
like this idea of increasing the size by 1 gigabyte for everyone, just like that. I think we should do as we usually do, allow an optimized way for drivers that support something else to do it. So if your driver, like RBD, allows you to make a small increment, just the necessary amount for something, we should at least give the drivers the opportunity. And then have the generic path, which is you can only do 1 gig. Yep, one more. There you go.
Okay, I haven't thought in that. It's a good point. I will try to try it.
because what would the
Okay.
interface have to look like for that, Sophia?
But
'Cause I thought that was part of the problem that came up was we didn't have a way to.
Yeah, I thought we don't have it because the volume, like the destination volume, is created in the manager, and in the manager we don't have the driver optimization yet. But I mean, as much as I try, I couldn't. But maybe it's because I only try RBD and RBD does not allow it. But also LVM doesn't.
So if we were gonna, I'm just thinking of allowing the path for sorry, for a an optimized driver to handle this. Well, I guess Ceph is a community driver, so we would, if we're going to try to do it for Ceph, we would do it ourselves.
I'm going to share like my proof of concept that I couldn't really increase less than 1.
Oh, okay. So you experimented with Ceph, and we're okay.
But yeah, as you see in line 2216, a new volume is created. So I know I cannot really like increase less than 1 gigabyte. Yeah, I remember we also had this discussion about if we are going to show the real size incremented, or if we are going to still showing the original, like the source volume size, and increase the volume and just leave it as it is. I know I decided just to show the bigger size anyway, so the user knows exactly the new size.
I think maybe this is something we should, from a user's perspective, if I am a user, I expect this to work seamlessly. I don't expect things to grow up, be a small. I want to retype. It should work. I know I'm saying what I would like to see, not what we end up with. It's from a user perspective, I want everything to work seamlessly. 1 gigabyte or 10 gigabyte, it will be 10, not 11 after I retype. I don't care encrypted, non-encrypted, one way or another, one backend, another. It's not my problem, the backend's limitations or Cinder code. Because why should I pay for 2 gigabytes or 11 instead of 10? just because how the backend that my provider has chosen. It should be the provider, the cloud administrator problem, like not my problem. So we maybe need to somehow be able to report this for accounting in case the public cloud provider wants to charge more for encrypted volumes because they know that they are going to need more sites, so they can charge accordingly. But for the user, they will not see their volumes grow because I encrypt, decrypt, encrypt, decrypt, encrypt, decrypt, and I end up with a 100 gigabyte volume for 1 gigabyte inside. It's like, what are you doing, Cinder? That is the kind of thing.
So that was some of the stuff that makes this kind of hard. Is to solve that, you have to keep track of info, like, do you actually need to extend it or not? And I think that was part of why we decided that it was going to be a user opt-in thing that says, yes, extend the volume when they see it fail without doing that. Sorry.
Is Eric's house on fire?
I live across the street from a fire station and my window is open. Oh, here's another one. All
right. They're coming for you, man.
So the window's got a new roof today, and there's a fire station right there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's part of. We didn't want to figure out how to keep track of, do we need to extend this volume or not. So we left it at, well, the user can try a migration operation, and then when that fails, they'll just try it and say, please make it bigger, and then it'll work. Part of, I totally agree with what Gorka was saying about the user shouldn't have to care about this stuff, but I'm not sure yet how we actually get there, because we, unfortunately, from the beginning with how encrypted volumes work, we already kind of cheat the user, where when they say, give me a 1 gigabyte volume, if it's encrypted, they don't actually get a 1 gigabyte volume, which surprisingly, people don't seem to complain about much, but it's already kind of baked in that you don't actually even get what you ask for now, which is not great, but it's another thing to figure out how to handle if we want to get to the point where things actually do just work like you would expect them to.
And that's what concerns me. If we start making small changes to kind of make it work with the not nice approach, we will never end up with a nice, where with the whole feature working from a user's perspective as expected, and with an interface with the administrator that is fine in terms of they can account for the extra space, they can charge, and I think that's where we should aim for, like a way to move current volumes or new volumes. New volumes should give you the size you ask for, and the migration should work. And for all volumes, we should just do something similar.
Yeah, and this is part of why when we first started down this whole area of work, I had proposed that one way that we could fix this correctly would be to actually add information about volumes where we know how many bytes inside the usable space of the volume actually is, because you kind of need to know that to actually be able to do this correctly.
Mm-hmm. Another way is, if I remember correctly, the Lux header is always the same size, right? Or can it grow?
I think it could grow in like a new version of Lux tools or something. I think it's always the same size right now.
Because we can account for the size. So it's only a matter of whether that header is taking space from the real volume or if it's outside and the volume has the right size. So we only have two ways, header in or out.
Right, but the problem there is then you run up against the problem that we count size in gigabytes, and we need to care about kilobytes when we're talking about lux headers.
You don't really have to care. You just have to tell the driver, this is an encrypted, account for however you want for the extra space for the header. If they can do 100 kilobytes, then they just do that. If they can do 1 gigabyte, they do that. And then they have to report the real size so the administrator can charge accordingly. I know it's a lot more complicated, but the whole feature is complicated.
Well,
you have headers.
It sounds complicated, but if you actually have those pieces of information that you need, then you can solve all of this stuff correctly. And it ends up working better in the end, for sure.
Exactly. So I think we should try to get to that point instead of resizing automatically. It's like a driver problem. It's a driver problem how to get that extra space, but so the user will see the right thing, always 1 gigabyte. The driver will do whatever it needs to do, and Cinder will just be reporting the real size in case somebody wants to charge, taking into account the space.
Yeah, and we weren't trying to resize automatically for now. That's why we had added it as an option to the retype command, I think.
Yeah, but we end up passing the problem to the user.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The last time we talked about this, everybody decided that would be the easy way to go. But it turns out
it's easy, but
yeah.
As a user, let's put an example one that you will feel close to you because you keep saying, we need more user messages. And I was talking with Luigi the other day about retype with migration and the fact that you try a retype, it fails, the volume becomes available again. And if you don't have access to the scheduler code, you don't know it because you have to allow it to migrate. As a user, you have literally no way of knowing. It's like, what is this? He couldn't believe it, but yeah. So that's, for example, one place when we are passing the problem to a user. We should at least have the user message saying, hey, this is going to have performance impact because you're moving from one backend to another. Please make sure that you want to do this, blah, 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 in a user message. But we don't. So now somebody else's problem. I think here we should fix it the right way. Have a spec about it and just say what the drivers need to do to make it work. And what will happen if they don't have the method implemented, which is we will increment in 1 gigabyte by default. If you don't have this, we increment your size ourselves.
Okay, it makes sense.
That's my vote. I don't know what the rest.
I think it would totally be worth writing up a spec on that to figure out how that would work and what would be involved. Because I do think a good chance you get a much better end result.
So, and then just something you'd said earlier, Eric. I mean, so when I request a 1 gigabyte volume of an encrypted type, I do get a 1 gigabyte volume. It just doesn't have a complete 1 gig of usable space, right?
You can't write 1 gigabyte of data to it, though, and that's what you ask
but
for.
that's right. But if I understand, right, that the thing I'm asking for has overhead associated with it, I wouldn't expect.
Yeah, but as a user, you don't even care that the admin set up an encrypted volume type. Like it's outside of the stuff that you're even looking at. Because the end user didn't even ask for it to be encrypted in some situations.
I suppose if you're only offering encrypted volume types. But I imagine users don't know the difference between how the gigabyte's measured, and they just assume, right, you can't fill it up anyway. Because all storage providers lie. All right.
But what if you're trying to stuff something with the exact size that you had before, and you just try to DD into the volume or something? It will fail if it has the exact size.
I always just picture somebody that has like a glance image that's exactly 2 gigabytes. Like that seemed, I would think that would bother people frequently, but I don't really hear about it, so I don't know. Because if you have a glance image that's exactly on a gigabyte boundary, it won't like not work if you're using encrypted volumes.
Yeah, well, glance measures in bytes, so it would be really hard to get an exact. But anyway, okay. So, all right. So, sorry, Sophia, this is not as much help as you were hoping, probably, because it looks like it's spec time. Once we have the spec, we can see better what we're going to do. But it looks like we'll have to have another call, a driver. Somehow you've got to be able to communicate. All right, well, yeah, I'll leave it up to you to think of some stuff.
Yeah, I have to complete do a new approach because I just leave the problem to a user. Yeah, as
Well, Sophia, if you're gonna start the spec stuff, I can help with the design part of that for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna copy the link of the spec. It's failing for some weird reason that I
The spec
already know.
itself.
Yeah, the spec. Oh, sorry. It's failing for some reason. Okay.
It's looking like tomorrow's going to be Gorka Day. Sorry, I tried to do my best, but I'll see if I can rearrange things later. But we're gonna meet with the Glance team in the Glance room. They are recording, so I'll stop this recording. Don't forget hallway time and meet pad after that, and may hold the photograph for tomorrow because I imagine we're going to lose a bunch of people now if we transfer it to Glance. So I put the Glance is also in Blue Jeans, just a different room. So the link is on the Etherpad if everyone can see it on the meeting Etherpad. So thank you for attending today. Please join us with Glance. And if you don't want to discuss Glance, please come back for the meeting, the hallway time at the top of the hour. And I will see you there. I'm going to stop this recording. Thanks for taking notes, Jay. And I'll see everyone hopefully in a couple of minutes, otherwise tomorrow.